All right, so let's go to our pre-studio specification. So here's the scenario. This is going to be kind of similar to your studio. It's going to involve turtles, and it's going to involve randomness. So Zach and Jesse work at LaunchCode, and it's really stressful to work here. Really difficult place to work. So after work one day, they decide to go to Dressel's, just a couple blocks down the street, and get a beer to blow off some steam and gossip about their coworkers, especially that Chris guy. And the problem is they blow off a little bit too much steam. They leave the pub, and they have no idea where they're going. They just end up walking randomly in different directions. Okay, so we want to like simulate this idea of two people starting from the same place and then just walking randomly in different directions for some amount of time. Okay, that's as many details as we get for this pre-studio. We're going to have to come up with some of our own ideas to make this work. But the main components we have are we've got two people or two turtles that are going to be walking. They need to do it randomly somehow, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so we're gonna be creative with this and write a program to do just that. Okay, so I have some ideas on how I want to write this. You might have some of your own. I'm going to use my ideas first, and then if you have some ideas on how to tweak it, we can maybe look at implementing those too. So what do I need to do? Let's kind of stub out our code a little bit. I'm going to have two turtles, and they're going to do random stuff for some amount of time. So let me just first say my first bit of business will be to create two turtles, and then make them walk randomly. That's really pretty much it. Okay, there's a lot more into it, but that's as much detail as I'm really given in this exercise so far. So let's just go ahead and dive into it and see what we get. I'm going to use turtles, and I've got randomness, so I need to import a couple of modules. Those are turtle, import turtle, and random, import random. Okay. All right, so now I can go ahead and create them. I have the turtle module, so I can make some turtles. I'm going to make Zach equals turtle dot turtle. Jesse equals turtle dot turtle. So just a bit of note here. The syntax, he talked about this in detail, and this idea of turtle dot something else with the parens. That's kind of a new syntax for us. Just mimic this for now. Kind of get used to it, memorize it a little bit. We'll really understand what this is when we get to the chapter on objects and classes. But basically what it's saying is I've got the turtle module. Inside of that, I have a special function that lets me create turtles. Okay, so I can't just say make a turtle, because that would just look kind of where I'm at. It would try to look for code where I'm at. I need to look inside the turtle module. That's where the turtle maker function lives. Okay, constructor is the fancy word for a turtle maker function. Okay, so I've got two turtles. What do I need to make those turtles work first, though? I left something out. I need a window, so I need turtle.screen. Gonna go ahead and save, gonna go ahead and run. Great. We didn't have anything happen because, well, there was nothing to happen. Okay, so what might we do now? We're gonna have these turtles on here. I want to be able to tell them apart, so I should probably make them different colors. Jesse, what's your favorite color? Turquoise. I don't know if I can spell turquoise. Okay. Do you know Zach's favorite color? He really likes that red shirt he wears a lot. Let's make him red. Orange? It's orange? I like orange too. Okay, so we've got a turquoise turtle and an orange turtle. Let's make a nice background color for them to live on. We'll say win.bg color. I'm pretty sure that's the function that'll do that. And we'll make it light blue. I'm going to go ahead and save and run just to make sure that I didn't use the wrong function. Okay, that's good. So that was the correct background color function. If I forgot what it was, I can always go back to there was a table in the chapter that listed a bunch of methods for you. You can go back to the documentation. Of course, you can also go to the Python documentation website, search Python turtle, and find the full documentation for that, and look up that this is indeed the right function to use. Okay, so just another note on this sort of new kind of notation where we put dots in front of our functions. If I were to say something like this, color turquoise, that wouldn't really be valid syntax. It's ambiguous as to what I'm trying to make turquoise, okay? So think of it this way. Think of it that I'm saying, hey, make this turtle turquoise. That's the way you want to think of that notation. These functions that belong to certain modules or belong to certain classes, you're usually going to have to talk about them in the context of a specific piece of data, a specific object. In this case, it only makes sense to turn a specific turtle purple or turquoise or orange or whatever, okay? Okay, so now I've got my turtles. They're on a screen. They're both at the same spot. They're about to leave the bar, and things are about to get wild. So we have some decisions to make, okay? I want to make them walk kind of randomly for a while. So I'm going to need to somehow incorporate randomness into making them move. I know how to make them move. I use like the forward function, and I can use the left and right. I know how to do that, but how can I do that randomly? Another problem I have is how do I make them do this over and over and over again for some period of time? Well, the over and over and over again, we only have one way to do something over and over and over again so far, which is what? For loop. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of make this up as I go. For I in range, I'm going to do something. And I'm going to make this range, let's say, here's my idea. I want to say that I want to start at 0, and I want to go up to, say, 50 in steps of 2. Okay, does that make sense to folks? So this is going to give me a list of numbers. Starts out at 0, goes up to 49 actually, and only includes even numbers. All right? And the reason I'm going to do this is that I want these numbers, this is going to generate a list that looks like this. Generates 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, etc., all the way up to 46, 48. It doesn't include 50 because remember that second number is one past the end of the list, okay? So here's why I'm doing this. I want them to make this really random. I'm going to make them go different distances each time, okay? So I'm going to use the number in this list. The first time they're going to go 0 feet. The next time they'll go 2 feet. Then they'll go 4 feet. Then they'll go 6 feet, then 12 feet. So just to kind of add to the chaos here, we're going to make them go different distances each time they go somewhere. Okay, so I'm just going to put a note there and say that the loop variable represents distance to travel forward. Okay? So somebody is looking at this, they know that that's what I want to use that loop variable for. Since I'm going to use it to represent a distance, I'm going to give it a useful name. You'll see I used in for loops a lot. It's a pretty useless name for a variable. What does it represent? What's it supposed to be doing? I don't know. Just says that's a letter, right? Let's make this dist. Or, if you want to be verbose, you can say distance. For distance in range, that makes it clear that this variable, which is going to take on the values in this list, it makes it clear that that I intend to use those as distances, to measure distances. Okay? All right, now in the body of my loop, now I'm in here. So now at this point, I have distance is equal to something reasonable. What do I want to do to make this random? So I could just make them move forward the same distance each time, but that's not really random, right? They're just going to follow each other down the street, or probably straight across the street into the next bar. But we want to make them somehow turn randomly, okay? Want to make them change direction, go forward, change direction, go forward, change direction, go forward. That's kind of the idea I have in mind here. And again, this wasn't part of the problem statement. This is just me being kind of creative with the vague parameters, the wide breadth of the parameters I was given. So I'm going to create a random angle for each turtle. Then I'm going to turn the turtle in that random direction. And then I'm going to move each turtle forward by distance, by the value of that loop variable, which is going to be 0, 2, 4, etc. Okay? So those are the steps I'm going to implement here. I need to create a random angle for each turtle. How can I do that? We know how to make random numbers. There's a couple ways I could do that that are both reasonable. Any ideas? Any ideas? So I can create a variable, and that's what she was saying, create a variable and use a random number. So I say random dot, you suggested between 0 and 180, so that would mean they can turn this way. They can't turn backwards. That's fine. So we can do, let's do rand range, because that's going to give us like a full degree. Rand range of 0 to 1, we'll do 181. That way they actually could go all the way backwards. And that's going to give us a random angle. I'm going to do 2 of these, though. So I'm going to give, I don't want them to always turn in the same angle. Otherwise, they would just follow each other. So let me make 2 of them. So Zach angle, Jesse angle. And here I'm just going to do the same thing. So I've got 2 random angles for each of my turtles. Then I want to turn each turtle in that random direction. So to do that, we use the what's the name of that method again? Is it turn? Left. Left or right is what it is, right? So we can say left, Zach angle, and then Jesse dot left, Jesse angle. So that's going to turn them. They're going to be, at this point, they're each time a loop, they're going to have some direction, and then they're going to turn randomly in another direction. Yes? They will always turn in the same direction, but not by the same amount. So yeah. So they're dead. We can once we get this up there, we can tweak it and see how this changes the sort of simulation. But you are correct. But they won't be the same amount, even though they will always be turning left. So one can turn left by 1 degree, one can turn left by 180 degrees, which is like all the way around. So after the first time, after they're both facing in different directions, they are pretty wildly off. It's not like each time they're both going to be start off facing and then turning just like small amounts to the left or something. The first time is the only time they're both facing the same direction. Okay, and then I need to make them move forward, which is, I do that by saying Zach.forward. I need to make them forward by some amount. I said I was going to do that by distance each time. And then Jesse.forward, distance. So every time around, distance is going to have a separate value. So how far they move forward each time is going to change. The first time, they're not going to move forward at all. The second time, they're going to move forward 2 pixels. The second time, 4, then 6, then 8. And so as the loop goes on, they're going to be making bigger jumps forward. Okay? So that should work. Those are all the steps I outlined. Am I missing anything? Anybody see anything I'm missing? Let's go ahead and save. I haven't run in a while, which is kind of a bad move. I'm going to zoom this out just so you can actually see it when I hit the run button. Let's just see what happens. So they start out by taking small steps. Steps are getting bigger. They seem to be kind of, I think they want to go back to the bar. There they go. They're heading down Euclid. Yeah. There we go. Every time I do this, it's going to be different, all right? So a couple things I want to do right now. That took a lot of time. That was slow. I'm impatient. I'm going to make these turtles faster. How do I do that? I set their speed, right? Speed, and I can do this. I just happened to do this afternoon, so it's fresh in my mind, but this can be a number between 1 and 10. Oops. I'm going to make it 10, just to go as fast as possible. Jesse.speed, 10. All right, save, and now this will go a lot faster. All right, now they're zipping all over the place. Okay, cool. So again, I made a bunch of decisions there on my own. You might have had different ideas on how this could have worked. That's fine, that's great. Within the parameters that we were given, which is that we have two people, 2 turtles that start off at the same place and then move randomly for some period of time, I achieved that goal, okay? So you can, this code I'll post this code on the site tomorrow, but you can do something similar. You can take your own stab at this if you like, but I was working within the parameters of what we were given to make this work. Any questions about what we just did in this? Yeah. Sure. So she said, can I make the step number random? Here I use the loop variable to be the step. So let's just make that change. It's not a difficult one. So here I generated a random angle each time. Say I want to generate a random distance each time too for each of them. So I'm going to have Zach distance equals something and Jesse distance equals something. And I need to make this random. And again, another choice I have to make. How random is it? It should be some number in some range. Let's just say random dot random range, rand range. And it's between, say, 1 and 10. I don't know. We can always change this, right? We can see how this goes. And then I just need to make sure that down here I'm using these distance variables to make them move forward rather than Jesse distance, rather than the loop variable. Yeah, it's pretty small, right? Let's make them move farther distances. 1 to 10, not long enough. Let's do like 1 to 30. All right, so you can play with it. At this point, we're just making sort of like random art here, if you want to think about it that way. Whatever you want. There's no wrong answer here, but that's how you would make the distances be random too. Was there another question somewhere in this area? Yes.
For a variable assigned to rand range, for it to become negative, you have to assign it after it's found the integer?
You could, the easiest way to, if you wanted to be, if you said wanted to be the range to be like between -1 and -30, the easiest way to do that would just to be put a minus right here. So the range, yeah, I think I'm not an expert in the rand range function, but you might be able to do, say, like -1 to -30. We can try that.
But is it still going to spit out an integer?
Yes. Rand range will always give you a random number, a random integer, whereas random gives you a random actual. I got some error there, so it didn't like that. So yeah, I would just look at the easiest way would be to just give it a positive range and then put a minus sign out front. So these are all things that you should do. Good questions. You should ask these questions, and then you should just try them. Try it. If it doesn't work, look it up. Try it again. Yeah. Because they're different for each person. So when I generate a random number, this Zach distance, this is going to be a random integer between 1 and 29. When I do Jesse distance, that's going to be a different random number between 1 and 29. So if I had given them both the same, if I'd only use one variable for that, they would both be traveling the same distance. Which is, again, you could do that because the angles are different. But yeah, that's the impact. All right, so let's move on to, I'm going to go ahead and save that. Let's move on to the studio. So the studio is going to have you doing something similarly ambiguous in terms of being creative and trying ideas with turtles racing. So you're going to have two turtles. They're going to race. They give you some starter code where you get the turtles created for you. Let's just run the starter code. You get the turtles created for you, and they're sitting there at the start line. And there are some suggestions down below on how you might make them simulate a race, okay? So again, here, the idea is to just simulate some kind of race between the two turtles. It doesn't tell you exactly how to do it, but be creative and use your knowledge of the Turtles library, the Turtles module, and the random module to make this work. You can try some of these ideas, you can try your own, but just try to get this, use this as an opportunity to get familiar with all those bits of those modules and with using for loops and get comfortable with using for loops, ranges, randomness, turtles, etc. All right.